WNBA ratings worst nightmare just came true because it was just announced that Caitlin Clark will be out for the rest of the season. She's only played 13 games this season, and her most recent injury, which happened back in July, was a groin injury. The craziest part about all of this has been the reporting around her injury. The team has never given her a timetable for return. Some fans were even speculating that they've just been stringing fans along the whole time because they know that ratings and attendance would drop once they announced that she's out, which is also so ironic that they announced it the day that football season starts.
The Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, is now navigating the treacherous terrain of a scenario that was simultaneously its greatest fear and perhaps an inevitable reckoning.
So it's official. The most heartbreaking news for Indiana Fever fans that could come of the season, but Caitlin Clark will not be returning to the 2025 WNBA season. She took the liberty of posting it herself because there were many people asking to hear from Caitlin Clark, to hear how she felt about the entire situation.
The league, which has spent the 2025 season riding a tidal wave of unprecedented growth and mainstream relevance, has been rocked by a single, definitive announcement. Its transformative star, Caitlin Clark, will not return from a groin injury for the remainder of the season.
I'd hope to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play the season. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I'm feeling. I want to thank everyone who has had my back through all this uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. And the way the fans continue to show up for me and for the Fever brought me so much joy and important perspective. I'm so proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through adversity this year.
This is not merely the loss of a key player for a contending team. It is the sudden removal of the central pillar supporting the entire edifice of the league's newfound popularity, forcing a difficult and comprehensive examination of its structure, its strategy, and its very future.
Norm for the WNBA is being largely ignored by the media. Largely ignored by sports media, not considered a real professional league, to the point where people didn't even know it existed until CC22. That's just a fact. You can't believe how many times I have people come in the chat and say, I didn't even know that there was a professional women's basketball league until Caitlin. Yeah, it's the facts.
The phenomenon known as the Clark effect has been the single most dominant narrative in sports this year. It wasn't just a storyline. It was a quantifiable economic and cultural engine. The numbers, stark and dramatic, paint a clear picture of a league bifurcated into two distinct realities, with Clark and without her.
Fever and Clark saying that she tried to get back on the floor. It appears that she just ran out of time, not able to get enough confidence back in her body as the season wraps up and the playoffs are likely about to begin for Indiana. I mean, it's a gut punch that basically encompasses an entire season of them. The Fever have lost so many players to injury, but obviously none bigger than Clark. And there was such a wait for this second season after her magnificent rookie season.
When the Indiana Fever's rookie phenom was on the court, her games commanded an average of 1.26 million viewers, a figure that rivals and in some cases surpasses those of other established professional sports leagues. Arenas across the country, many of them home to NBA teams, sold out weeks in advance, filled with fans eager to witness the player who had single-handedly rewritten the narrative of women's basketball. Her jersey became the highest selling of any athlete in any sport upon its release, a testament to her magnetic appeal.
This has been a huge disaster as far as public perception for the WNBA. An entirely new group of people started tuning in to this league for one player and one player only. In fact, so many new people tuned into this league, the viewership for the Caitlin Clark games largely surpassed anything else going on in the WNBA. I would argue that the amount of Caitlin Clark fans are at least 3x.
However, the moment she was sidelined with that groin injury on July 15th, the foundation began to show its cracks. Viewership for broadcasts without her presence reportedly plummeted to around 400,000. That precipitous 70% drop was cushioned by the lingering hope, a hope the league implicitly encouraged, that she might make a heroic return for the postseason. Now, with that hope officially extinguished, the league is staring into a potential viewership canyon.
When she was supposed to return versus the Minnesota Lynx, supposedly, and then the Scott Agneses and all them start talking about she suffered a bone bruise in Phoenix, I told y'all it was a wrap. It was done. It was done. They knew it. And I believe they've known far longer. They have known. They've kept us fans in the dark, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. Man, I was so looking forward to watching Caitlin Clark play this season. Now we have to wait an entire offseason, and we don't even know what's going to happen. There might be a lockout. There might not even be a 2026 season, guys.
This isn't a minor dip. It's a seismic event that exposes a fundamental vulnerability in the WNBA's current model. Its overwhelming dependence on a single 23-year-old star.
She knows just how much she means to everybody that buys those tickets. I mean, I would say at least like 90 to maybe not 95, but like 90% of the people in arenas were there to see Caitlin Clark, which of course they became fans of the Fever afterwards. But you know, Caitlin Clark is the draw. And then here's this one where she's actually in her street clothes. And yeah, these are, you know, pretty heartfelt photos. Her in the huddle with her teammates. But I gotta say, this was quite a year. I mean, there came a certain point where people, including myself, were just like, what is actually going on?
This crisis is compounded by the contentious debate surrounding the physical treatment Clark has endured throughout her rookie campaign. The statistics are telling. Clark was the recipient of 17% of all flagrant fouls committed across the entire league this season. This disproportionate figure has fueled a fierce debate. On one side, league veterans and traditionalists argue that the aggressive checks, hard screens, and relentless physicality are simply a standard welcome to the league for a generational talent.
This season has been a complete train wreck. This season's been a complete disaster. We got the GOAT, who only played 13 games, missed basically the whole season. Dewana Bonner scammed us. Natasha Howard basically scammed us. Stephanie White's a liar. Amber Cox is a liar. Kelly Crosskoff's a liar. Now we have to go a whole offseason with the front office we don't trust, we don't believe in, we can't believe anything they say, and we don't know what's really going to happen with Caitlin Clark's health.
On the other, a growing chorus of critics, fans, and analysts contend that the league and its officials, under the leadership of Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, failed in their duty to protect their most valuable asset. They argue that a line was crossed between tough competition and targeted aggression, and that the failure to curb it has led directly to this catastrophic outcome.
Caitlin Clark was hurt after that Liberty game. That's when they should have said, we need to wait this out until the All-Star break. But instead, they worried about their ticket sales, TV ratings, and all this stuff. So they actually had Caitlin Clark come back a couple weeks earlier than expected, and I think that's the real reason why she's out. They mismanaged this entire season. I don't respect the GM. I don't respect the president anymore. I really don't respect the coach. They all lied on false pretense. That's all they did. They kept lying and kept stringing Caitlin Clark like a carrot on the string. And all these fans kept going to the games hoping that she'll come back.
The league is now left to answer for a strategy that appeared to prioritize the short-term drama of physical rivalries over the long-term health of the player, driving its economic boom.
Only a huge blow for the Fever, but also for the entire WNBA. Caitlin was out with an injury back in June. Viewership dropped over 50% across the league. That's the kind of effect that she has on things. And it seems like from her post and how they announced it, Caitlin was the one that was trying so hard to get back on the court. She has traveled to every single away game. She's always meeting with fans, taking photos, signing autographs, doing all of the things because she knows how many people come out specifically to see her. But I'm really interested to see what viewership and attendance looks like now that it's official that she's done. The hope is gone.
The financial shockwaves of Clark's absence are poised to be just as devastating as the ratings decline. Sports economist Ryan Brewer had projected Clark's total economic impact could approach an astonishing $1 billion in a single season. This calculation was not limited to the WNBA's direct revenue. It encompassed a vast ecosystem of merchandising, expanded television contracts, local tourism in host cities, and the cultural cachet that attracted a new tier of high-level corporate sponsors. She was not just a player within the WNBA economy. For all intents and purposes, she was the WNBA economy in 2025. Now, those sponsors who signed multi-million-dollar deals expecting Clark to be the face of the league through the finals are undoubtedly holding emergency meetings. The networks, including ESPN and ABC, that built their broadcast schedules and marketing campaigns around her, must now promote a postseason that has lost its main character.
This has been a full circle moment for the WNBA. With all the chatter of Kathy Engelbert saying, oh, if one player gets injured, one player, well, you have it. That one player got injured. And now you have it. There's no conversation around the league. No positive, no negative, no conversation at all. The only media talking about the WNBA are the content creators, are the YouTubers, are people with podcasts, people with their own shows, etc., etc. But you go on to ESPN, nobody's talking about the W. You go on to Fox Sports, nobody's talking about the W. The WNBA has managed to turn off a fan base that would have elevated this league.
For the Indiana Fever, the competitive implications are dire. With Clark as their floor general, they were seen as a legitimate championship contender, a team powered by her offensive genius and infectious energy. Without her, they are a team stripped of their identity, their leader, and their primary scoring engine, left to claw their way through the playoffs with a murky future. But the damage extends far beyond Indiana. The psychological impact on the millions of new fans Clark brought to the sport is incalculable. These were not the WNBA's loyal, long-time supporters. They were a new, massive demographic drawn in by Clark's historic run at Iowa and her electric professional debut. Their mantra, echoing across social media platforms, has become the league's worst nightmare. If she's out, I'm out.
I've got a couple of things. I've got my dude, Jason Whitlock, saying he's done. He's out. We've got Colin Cowherd saying, you know what? Guess what I didn't talk about on my show this year? The WNBA. Guess why? He just come out and said it yesterday. Because Caitlin Clark was not playing. That's why. He said, I led my show, my biggest, largest national sports radio show in the country. I led my show with Caitlin Clark 6 times last year.
This sets the stage for a postseason that risks feeling hollow. The WNBA Finals, which were anticipated to be a crowning moment of the league's historic season with potentially record-breaking viewership, could now face a ratings crater. The raw truth is that many of the new fans weren't tuning in to see who won the WNBA championship. They were tuning in to see who could beat Caitlin Clark. Without that central conflict, that singular dramatic force, the league must now scramble to create a compelling narrative for a casual audience that has largely lost its reason to care. There is a cruel irony in the timing and nature of this entire ordeal. The league spent months pushing a narrative of collective growth, insisting it was bigger than one player. Yet, Clark's absence has obliterated that talking point. It demonstrates, in the starkest terms possible, that the league's recent surge was almost entirely tethered to her presence. Without her, the WNBA risks regressing to its pre-2025 status. A respected but niche professional league with a dedicated but small fan base, fighting for media attention and struggling to consistently fill arenas. By stepping away to recover, Clark has, perhaps unintentionally, delivered the most powerful indictment of a system that capitalized on her talent while failing to adequately protect it. The league now finds itself in an unenviable position. It must sell a postseason product that feels incomplete, headlined by stars who, through no fault of their own, have been overshadowed all year. The executives, the rival players who engaged in the relentless physicality, and the officials who let it slide are all left to stare into the half-empty arenas and declining viewership numbers and wonder how they allowed their golden goose to be taken off the board. The WNBA is about to learn the hardest lesson in sports entertainment. When you build an empire around a single star, you must protect that star at all costs. The failure to do so has plunged the league into a crisis, leaving it to face a future that, just a few weeks ago, seemed impossibly bright, but now looks perilously uncertain.